They're making a mark in the legal community. Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Joining me now is Professor Dan Linna, a law professor and director of LegalRnD and an assistant dean for career development for Michigan State University's College of Law. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
And sort of in charge of, if you will, this LegalRnD Center for Legal Services Innovation. What is that?
Well, we're working to improve the delivery of legal services so we can make the law accessible to everyone. In some, lawyers are too expensive for people today, and there are too many people in the United States who do not have access to legal services. And this isn't just a problem with the poor. The studies show that about 80% of the indigent do not have access to legal services, and more than half of middle class people do not have access to legal services. It's gotten so bad that when the World Justice Project ranked countries on access and affordability of legal services, the United States ranks 65th in the world, tied with countries like Uzbekistan, Botswana. I mean, it's really reached a crisis proportion, and we as lawyers need to do better, and that's why we have LegalRnD.
I thought all the awesome lawyers had to, by law, is this a myth, provide so many pro bono hours to people in need. Do they still do that or just not enough?
Lawyers still do that, and absolutely pro bono is an important part of the solution here, but it's simply nowhere near enough. There are far too many people to be served to continue practicing law the way we do. One of the big problems we have is that we're still delivering legal services mostly pretty much the way we did 100 years ago in the craft mode. And we're trying to get up to speed like other industries and improve our processes, use data, use technology, and get lawyers to be innovators and entrepreneurs and think about how can we improve legal service delivery so that we can serve more people.
Are you already in the process of figuring that out? I mean, what sort of observations have you made and what changes are taking place?
Well, we're really focused in three areas. We want to do research and development to innovate and improve legal service delivery. We're training 21st century lawyers. We have a curriculum built around that. And we're engaging with the community. We're working with courts, we're working with legal aid organizations, and we're working with other lawyers. And when it comes to the curriculum, it's really built around training T-shaped lawyers, right? In the past, we really focused on having lawyers with deep, substantive legal expertise, but we really want to look at that horizontal part of the T and look at these other disciplines. How can lawyers use process improvement and project management to improve legal service delivery, use data, metrics, and data analytics, and technology to improve legal services, just like we're seeing in every other industry out there.
Well, I think of the medical industry, and I haven't used it, but now you can go for whatever, $10, you can ask a doctor a question online, and there's some discussion over whether or not that's a real good practice or not, but it does get information quickly and less expensively out to people who need it. Is that the type of thing you're talking about with
That's
with
absolutely.
lawyers?
A lot of what's happening in the medical industry, we're looking at in the legal industry. How do we use lean? How do we improve processes so that we can improve delivery? But a lot of legal aid organizations, for example, now have expert systems online. A lot of people talk about it kind of like TurboTax for law, right? How do we provide self-help in a way that people can solve some of their own problems, but also get the right kind of advice so that they know when they really do need to go consult with a lawyer?
All right, yeah, so we're not necessarily talking about getting somebody off a criminal rap, but maybe helping them to get started putting a will together. That's the biggest, why didn't you put a will and a trust together? Well, it was going to cost X amount of money and I didn't have it. But if somebody can do some of that their own with a program and then just ask the common questions less expensively, then it makes it more accessible.
That's exactly right. And really, we're looking at this across the whole industry. So it's even more complex matters than that. As lawyers, we tend to treat every matter as kind of a special snowflake. And we're saying, well, how can we standardize, right? If we were entering the automotive industry, we wouldn't think about going into a garage and building one vehicle at a time, right, to compete in the automotive industry. We need to be more process-oriented. We need to think about how do we use technology to deliver and standardize to more people.
All right, good to know. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be here, thanks.
Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Professor Dan Linna, a law professor and director of LegalRnD and the assistant dean for career development for MSU's College of Law.